So what was the hazing culture like, and how did you receive it? Did you receive it well, or did it kind of affect you mentally?
So in retrospect, now that I'm a quasi-grown man, I played into a lot of it because I thought this was what I'm supposed to do. I had made a passing comment that at the time in the SmackDown culture, it was very toxic. There was a lot of fear for spots. And I had come in, and again, I'm not the biggest guy, but I was a young guy, good looking guy. I could work. I had a good body. I could talk. That was a big thing. And I ended up, in retrospect, also not realizing it, being openly romantically linked, dating one of the new divas. So there's also that macho thing of, oh, new girl, new meat, we want her. Hey, new guy, get out of the way. And a lot of these guys are big and have tenure in the business. So bullying, I guess, or demanding respect is something that comes naturally. So some of the things I said, I should have shut my mouth. I will take full ownership of that. But still, some of the things I said were blown up and inflated. They needed someone. To my understanding, that Batista was in the doghouse. Now, this is how tells you how crazy. A guy like Batista had heat with all these guys. And that week I kind of came along, and it was just a perfect opportunity for the bullseye to go on Big Dave, who's going to make the money, to this little guy who we can kind of poke around a little bit. But I actually enjoyed the segregation because I am a loner by trade. I loved finding that janitor's closet. I loved finding that area in the back of the arena. And even better, once the ECW guys got wind of it, they all were like, yo, dress with us, dress with us. And it was kind of like, cool, I have a place. Even if it is the Misfits, I have a place. I ended up going to WrestleMania with those guys. So maybe I belonged more with them than I belonged with the others. I don't know.
Yeah, I think for people outside of the business, this is where people struggle with what that kind of behavior is trying to achieve, right? Because I remember you telling a story about, I think it was Chris Benoit, like shouting you out, and then, was telling you that he needed to make an example out of you. So what exactly are people trying to achieve in that kind of locker room culture? And does it achieve anything?
So it's a great question, because if it's done in earnest, it can achieve a lot. It can achieve respecting the business and appreciating the fact that these guys came before you, and these guys had to drive 400 miles. They didn't have buses. They weren't getting high six-figure contracts and stuff. That's all great. But then there was the psychosocial dysfunction that wrestling, alcohol, drugs, performance-enhancing drugs, and just massive egos can bring out, especially in men. And that was the negative part of it. So there's a good and a bad, a yin and a yang to everything. But when Chris Benoit was reading me the riot act in front of the gallery and then pulling me aside and speaking to me normally and explaining to me why, it really gave me a deep insight into the dark psychosocial dysfunction that can easily happen in wrestling. And there's a reason everything happened, so I'm glad it happened the way it happened.
I wonder as well, because for fans, we may just assume that to get somewhere in the WWE, it's all on talent. If you're good in the ring, you'll get to this, that, and the other. But how much politicking goes on in sort of making the right networking, the right connections, being on the right person's right side? How much of that is part of it?
So, of all people, it was Triple H that gave me great advice, and it was right at the apex of my heat. It was him and Sean. We were online for overseas to get on a flight, and it was just him and Sean, and I had extra bags more so, and Hunter was like, what is that? I was like, oh, these are my peace offerings. It was a bottle of this for JBL. It was a bottle of this for that. And I was like, dude, what do I do? And he's like, you can bump your ass off. You can sell. You can talk. At the end of the day, they're all going to want to work with you. At the end of the day, they're all, at the very least, going to want you to sell their finisher. Just, keep your mouth shut. Don't be a dick. But beyond that, that's it. And that's when it hit me, you can politic all you want and you can whatever, but cream will always rise to the top. If John Cena was just a politicker, now he wasn't the greatest wrestler when he started, but at the end of the day, when you look back on the body of work, you go, damn, the guy had talent. Then there are others that were supposed to get pushes that didn't have the talent, and they disappear. And we see those guys where are they now is on the internet and YouTube, and they become a footnote in history. So Hunter put it into me with the hazing and all the bullshit and all that, I could still bump my ass off. I could still protect myself because Johnny taught me how to wrestle defensively. And I could still cut a promo that can get anyone over. And that's what I relied on.
Yeah. Was there anyone else at sort of that stage of your career that, you know, you learned a lot from? Maybe you saw as a mentor figure?
Yes. And when I look back at the names, I go, oh, duh, of course they were. So I mentioned John Cena. Cena was great with me because anytime he would see me, he would always just be like, yo, keep your head up. Yo, this will pass. Don't worry. Like, he was always kind of like, again, similar to a father figure, but an older brother. Like, just keep your chin up, kid. Kane was another guy who was the first guy to say, listen, it's called sell it. Don't sell it to these guys. Don't walk around with that face like, you know, they're breaking your heart. Because they are. We all know you love this place. You just want to be here. So guys like that had that, they were empaths, I guess. William Regal was another one who was one of the first people that kind of mattered, openly said, I have no problem with this guy. This guy's okay. I'm not going to go along with this sheep mentality. So those are some people off the top of my head. And lastly is Vince, because if Vince wasn't on my side, I wouldn't be here talking to you. So there's that.